everyone and attending today's hui. We did say back in August when we came out that we'll be here in November with the next lot of engagement, so we've stuck to our word. We're here today to present basically where we're at in terms of this process of looking into the asset arrangement and governance representation. So hopefully you've got a lot of questions, but check the presentation out. There are some kind of stimulating questions and content involved in this booklet. It's been a culmination of a lot of work since we thought your initial feedback back in August. Hopefully it is at a point where we can then continue that discussion and continue on going forward to make sure that when we do go around at the end of next year, start of next year, that we do seek the ratification vote, that we are all on the same page and we're reflective of the thoughts and minds of our members. So I'll just pass it on through the trustees and they can introduce themselves. So if, particularly at the end of today's hui, if you've got any particular questions, please approach one of the trustees, have a discussion with them. Kia ora.
Kia ora, ko Richard Niania ahau, no te kāhui o te Wairoa Mauri Trust Board. Kia ora tātou.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Apia Tāpani au, the Wairoa Mauri Trust Board Delegate. Kia ora.
Janina Symes, Nohaka.
Kia ora koutou, he te kaukau, Paki Nuarua, te Paki Iute e Ngāmotu.
Kia whaikaroria hariruria kia iho ngā mano mātua tamu wairo tapu mga ane rupungi te māngai. Ko te awhine Kamansita, Morale taku ingoa. Ko e te pōtiki, Richard Dick and Terry Morale ki te kapua, Frasertown. I am the trustee for Ngā Tukurima, Hine Manuhiri.
Kia ora tātou katoa, ko Hui Ahua te tōku ingoa, ko te trustee mō Ngā Tukurima, Hine Manuhiri.
Kia ora koutou, Oha Manuel for Te Wairoa Tupukirau Cluster 1, Ngā Te Kurupake Aka Ngai Tauira, Te Aitanga Puata and others, 46 others, but it's not in the book. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou, ko Pauline Symes au, nō rākau Pāka.
Nā mihi mahana kia koutou, ko Moana Runga ahau. I represent Runga Mawahine and Ngai Te Rā katoa. Kia ora.
Thank you very much. Again, we're back here in Wairoa, so Wairoa was the first hui again. It's the first time we've gone through this presentation. It's the first time we've gone through this particular format. So there will be some teething issues. Hopefully this time around, rather than at August, we got a better sound system. We took the feedback from there and the members couldn't quite hear properly. So this particular venue with the speakers and all that, hopefully it's more conducive to our members to be able to hear the content of the presentation. Unlike the previous hui, we're not going to have workshops on this in this particular session. We're just going to have what's the presentation. We'll have a little bit of Q&A after that because it's going to generate a bit of Q&A, and we'll run through that Q&A, and then at the end we'll break and then have a cup of tea, and that's when we're going to you can directly approach individual trustees about particular questions contained in the booklet, particular information that you may need clarifying about the content. In terms of the content, starting off with the easy stuff in the booklet, aspirations, values and principles. We've kind of come to a bit of a consensus agreement on that. We've taken our members' feedback, we've sought feedback from our kaumātua kāhui on that content, and we've refined it, and in the booklet is a combination of all of that feedback contained in there. So in terms of that particular aspect, when we came to see you in August, we're hopefully reflective of all those changes and suggestions that you've contained in there. So if there isn't any suggested changes, or if there is some, just please write in your feedback forms. And then moving on through that, there's two probably key sections to follow that. One regarding the representation. We've got some thoughts on that. And then as well, there's a particular process around rōpū independence. And then the third section is basically the two models that we've come up with regarding the members' feedback. So that's kind of the structure for today's kind of hui. It's to look at the booklet, look at the presentation, and then if you need to seek feedback or clarifications, please do that in the Q&A section. That's where we need to ask some key questions. At the end of the booklet, you notice there's some particular key questions that we are asking of you. We need to seek your clarification and feedback on some particular key points that we need to clarify. By answering those, you're giving the trustees some guidance in terms of how it shapes their thinking going forward for the next couple of months. Here we go, the guys at the back are about to sort it out. So we're about to sort that out. Go on, Alice. Cool. Just for housekeeping matters, you obviously can see the exit signs clearly marked. Wharepaku, as you know, is at the back, down to the left, and you'll see them marked on the doors down there. So yeah. Just finding some more booklets. Once we get that sorted, we'll start the presentation. Just I guess, just a starting point, the content in the booklet, it's been, I guess, very difficult to bring all that feedback together and present something that's cohesive. Trustees have done their best to come up with something that has got a bit of content to it. So it gives you a better idea of the detail in it, because at the previous engagement hui, our members wanted to know a bit more detail. We had quite a high level kind of discussion at the first engagement hui about concepts and that. We've taken that feedback and then developed it, something a bit more detail that we hope will give you an idea of where our thinking has kind of been shaped. So yeah, so just it is quite a lot to take in. It's quite a bit that feedback, but we're hoping that you can see your feedback in there and contained in the concepts and the proposals that we'll put together. So hopefully we've done a good job. We'll find out after the end of this. Cool. No further ado, we'll kick it off.
Mihi ki o koutou katoa e tau kei rungu I te karanga. Kei ngā uri o kura aupō, kei ngā uri o tāki timu, nau mai, hara maira.
Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai, haere mai. Thank you for joining us today in our second round of engagement hui to plan for our prosperous future. We are tātou o Te Wairoa Trust, the post-settlement governance entity, or PSGE, for the iwi and hapu o te rohe o Te Wairoa. It is our responsibility, on behalf of our iwi and hapu, to manage the redress that will be received as part of our settlement with the Crown. In August this year, we held our first round of engagement hui across 9 locations in Aotearoa. Our trustees sought your feedback on our values, aspirations and principles, and on proposed concepts for how our representation and asset ownership structure could look in the future. It was great to see so many whānau participating, and new faces too, with many tuning in to watch the live-streamed videos and sending us their thoughts online. We received invaluable feedback from you during this time, which has shaped our trustees' mahi over the last 2 months. Now we're coming back to you to kōrero some more. Today's hui is an opportunity to hear more about the feedback you have provided so far and to talk through our refined values, aspirations and principles and models for representation and asset ownership. We want to know if we have heard you correctly and if you agree with the proposals we present. What you tell us during this hui is critical to help shape the thinking on our future representative structure and about asset ownership arrangements. The presentation covers the key points in your information booklet. Following this presentation, we will have 30 minutes for you to ask any questions you may have. Ka tahi ka kaputi tātou, so you can meet and talk to your representatives and our support teams who are here today. Also, if you are not yet a registered member of Tātou Tātou o Te Wairoa, we can help you register today. We are back on a hikoi across Aotearoa, holding our second round of hui in Wairoa, Ahuriri, Te Whanganui a Tara, Rotorua, Kirikiriroa, Tāmaki Makaurau, Te Papaioia, Waihōpai, me o Tautahi. We are presenting exactly the same information at each hui, which will cover a recap of our August hui and what we asked of you, a look at the feedback we received from whānau, our aspirations, values and principles, considering the refined approach, our recommended approach for representation, 2 models as options for our asset management. Your feedback is important. We want to know we have heard you correctly and if we're on the right track. What you tell us today will directly impact on the models our trustees recommend to you for voting on next year. Remember, it's you, our people, who ultimately decide on the future of Tātou Tātou. We will now focus on the areas where we want your feedback, thoughts and questions. Firstly, your aspirations, values and principles. In 2012, a series of workshops were held to identify our aspirations as we work towards the settlement. At our August Engagement Hui, we asked you to tell us whether these aspirations were still relevant to you today. These are important as they will help to guide Tātou Tātou o Te Wairoa as we move forward. When providing feedback, we ask you to consider: do the aspirations, values and principles still fit for our whānau, hapu and iwi? How would you like us to operate? Do these best reflect your aspirations, values and principles? What might be missing? We will now look at the aspirations, values and principles which have been updated and refined to reflect what you have told us. Our updated and refined vision is Tātou Tātou o Te Wairoa, he iwi motuhake, he tangata oranga ake. Our updated and refined aspirations centre around the well-being of our iwi, hapu and whānau. They are social well-being, restoration of health and social conditions for our iwi and hapu, cultural well-being, restoration and protection of the cultural identity of our iwi and hapu, environmental well-being, revitalisation of the local environment and restoration of our role as kaitiaki of our natural resources, economic well-being, rebuilding an economic base for our iwi and hapu and reassertion of our tino rangatiratanga. Our refined values and principles focus on the areas that you told us are most meaningful to you. They are wairuatanga, fostering our unique features of mana whenua and tangata whenua. Rangatiratanga, your right to be the architect of your own future and development. Manaakitanga, respecting, nurturing and caring for others. Kaitiakitanga, guardians of ngā taonga tuku iho, te taiao. Whanaungatanga, our kinship is determined through blood and whāngai, whakapapa. These refined aspirations, values and principles aim to reflect the feedback you have given us. So, have we heard you correctly? Do these aspirations, values and principles reflect the way you believe Tātou Tātou should be guided in our mahi? E anga whakamua ana te waka, forging a new path. We will now look at the refined models for our future representation and 2 models as options for our asset management structure. What we asked of you. At our previous engagement hui, we presented you with 3 asset and representation concepts: There were devolution, whakatoha-toha, collaboration, mahitahi, amalgamation, kotahitanga. Each of these concepts could be applied separately to assets and representation arrangements, or parts taken from each to create a new model. They reflect possibilities at each end of the scale and a middle option. In August, you told us what you thought of these concepts and why, what aspects you like and what parts you don't like. We have listened to your views and brought them together to develop a recommended representation approach and 2 new models for the future structure of tātou tātou for you to consider. A representation approach could be 7 rōpū, like the existing kāhui groups, but based on rohe and tipuna. The new models for you to consider are Model 1, whakatōpū, consolidated ownership, shared management of assets for the benefit for all. Model 2, kanorau, diversified ownership. Rōpū owns some assets and tātou tātou owns some assets. We will now talk more about each of these options. From your feedback, many whānau want to continue on the path that we have forged through the settlement process so far, being grouped by kāhui or clusters of hapū for representation, then coming together under one umbrella group. After considering your feedback, the initial trustees recommend the following representation approach for tātou tātou o te Wairoa Trust. 7 rōpū, like the existing kāhui groups, but based on rohe and tipuna. This means that each rōpū will include hapū that whakapapa to that tipuna, and marae that are based within that rohe. Each rōpū would elect its own 2 representatives, including at least 1 ahi kā, as trustees for tātou tātou. You would choose 1 rōpū for the purposes of voting to elect your trustees. You can also list other rōpū as part of your registration with tātou tātou if you have a whakapapa connection to 1 or more hapū within those other rōpū. We also need to decide if there should be the option for a rōpū to leave tātou tātou o te Wairoa if it decided that it wanted to be independent. If our people want this to be able to happen, the tātou tātou trust deed would need to be amended. This would be done as part of the vote early next year on the structure of tātou tātou o te Wairoa Trust. We have outlined a process in your information booklet on how this would work. The key principles are that high voting thresholds ensure fairness and a robust process. All adult registered members of tātou tātou would need to vote to approve the framework, as this ensures transparency for all. A rōpū could not trigger an exit at any time. They would have to do it within a certain period so tātou tātou has certainty going forward. If a rōpū becomes independent, they would no longer be a part of tātou tātou, not have any trustee representatives on tātou tātou, and remain connected to tātou tātou through a formal agreement for cultural redress and rights to purchase RFR land. This is your choice, whānau. If you think it is important for rōpū to have this option, we can include it in the special resolutions that you will vote on early next year. Now we will look a bit closer at the models for our asset ownership arrangements. All this information is contained in the information booklet from page 18 onwards. The first model is whakatōpū, consolidated ownership. In this scenario, tātou tātou owns and manages all assets for the benefit of all the iwi and hapū o te rohe o te Wairoa. Everyone shares in the whole of the assets, so no asset is given to a specific rōpū, and all ups and downs in performance of assets are shared. The second model is kanorau, diversified ownership. Here, each rōpū would own some of their own assets and be responsible for those. Tātou tātou o te Wairoa Trust also owns some assets. Rōpū and tātou tātou can engage in a management policy to share administration of commercial assets. Let's now look at the key features of the two models. Remember, these models are based on your feedback and are not final. Your feedback today will help shape these further. We'll start with whakatōpu, consolidated ownership. Key features of this model are tātou tātou owns all the deferred selection properties, the Patunamu and Wharerata forest interests, and any right of refusal land purchased in the future. Tātou tātou manages these assets for the benefit of all. All ups and downs in performance of assets are shared, as are all risks, costs and administration. Everyone shares in the whole of the assets. Tātou tātou distributes profits to rōpū annually, reinvests income for future generations and funds operations. Grouping assets will create economies of scale, guided by collective decision-making. In comparison, kanorau, diversified ownership, means that ownership of assets is shared. On settlement, rōpū could be allocated a percentage of all cash and assets, with the remaining cash and assets pooled in tātou tātou. Rōpū and tātou tātou can engage in a management policy to share administration of commercial assets. Under this model, profits and losses are incurred by the rōpū from the assets that they own. For commercial properties, a rōpū will need to instruct tātou tātou to exercise a right to purchase a deferred selection property or future RFR site. Dispute resolution processes will be put in place if rōpū cannot agree on ownership of certain assets. Cultural redress relationships remain with tātou tātou. So, those are the two refined models. To see these in more detail, go to pages 18 to 21 of your information booklet. It's important to understand that what you have seen today is not final. We are simply seeking your feedback to determine if we have heard you correctly in August, and if we've got it right. Today we want your feedback on our aspirations, values and principles, our representation approach, our two asset management models. Let's now recap. We are holding the second series of Engagement Hui to check we've heard you correctly and seek your feedback on the refined models. In February next year, we plan on holding a ratification process on the special resolutions required by our trust deed, where we will ask you to vote on our potential asset and representation arrangements. What we recommend to you then will be heavily influenced by what you tell us today. We anticipate that in early to mid-2018, our settlement legislation is likely to pass its final reading and become law. That will bring an end to over 30 years of mahi on this important kaupapa. However, it is just the beginning of our new era. By the end of August 2018, we will need to complete the amendments to the trust deed by special resolution, and in October there will be new trustee elections. It's an incredibly busy but exciting time for our whānau, and we are grateful you are here on this journey with us. You can provide feedback on the feedback form at the back of your information booklet or through our online feedback form on the Tātou Tātou website or on our Facebook page. Remember, it is you, our people, who decide on the final asset and representation arrangements. In 2018, all adult registered members will have the opportunity to vote on the special resolutions. So please check with whānau to ensure they're registered. If not, tell them to head to our website now. We'll now have questions and answers. Before we do, we have the following ground rules. Please respect others and remain quiet so that their questions can be heard clearly. Please identify yourself when you speak so we can record your name. Please keep questions related to the aspirations, values and principles, the recommended representation approach, or the 2 asset ownership models outlined today. For other matters, please talk to one of your representatives. Nō reira, from all of us here at Tātou o te Wairoa Trust, ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Mauri ora.
Bring it together as one to hopefully present in a form that is easily understood and can easily see your feedback contained in here. So probably on the outset, as I said before, the aspirations and principles, we took those, we got some good feedback in terms of merging some of them into particular areas so that we can, over time, look at measuring how we can, are we achieving them, are we achieving the outcomes that we set for them? So that's with the aspirations and principles, that was what we're trying to do there. There's a lot of other values and principles that sit underneath the ones you've seen in the booklet and in the video. So that's just a summary of those particular 5 values and principles. Moving through the booklet, in terms of representation, again, we've come to a point where we know we've been on this journey together as kāhui. We understand that the kāhui have done a role and a job getting us here. We acknowledge that the way that kāhui is structured as contained in the booklet is not correct. There's some additions that we need to make to that. We accept that, but we want to set up a process whereby those particular rōpū can undertake that process and then feed back into their structure. Through the August engagement, we know we got a large feedback from where are the marae in this process, where do they sit. The trustees looked at whether a marae-based model would work, but to be frank, with 40 plus odd marae in the district, such a large governance group would never work like it does elsewhere. So in terms of setting ourselves up, the kāhui or rōpū-based approach that's got us this far would suit us more better in terms of that structure. We are familiar with it. We kind of know how it operates. It just needs a bit more finer tweaking and adjusting, and that's where the trustees have thought out coming up with a rohe base based on tipuna, more appropriate, and under that can sit how a particular rōpū wants to organise themselves, whether it's by marae, whether it's by hapu, will be up to those individual rōpū to make a decision about what best works for them. We're not trying to impose a blanket approach across all rōpū. We know different rōpū operate differently, and that's how they've operated in the past. We're not there to change how they want to operate. It's about reflecting their mana mo te hake and not telling them how they should operate, but having the facility there to organise themselves in such a structure that they feel works best for them. So by not having that blanket approach. But at the same time, we need to be sure that those rōpū are being fair, transparent and balanced in terms of representation of those particular rōpū. So we need to make sure that is the overarching principle when you do go to looking at the rōpū structures in terms of how they set up. Is a marae-based representation? Is a representation based on hapu? We need to make sure there's some checks and balances in place to make sure that one particular marae, one particular hapu, one particular whānau doesn't then take over and kind of dominate it. We need to make, at the end of the day, settlement is for everyone. Everyone should be able to get able to benefit from it and participate in a fair and transparent process. In terms of moving on from rōpū structures, you did see, we touched on here, a particular process about rōpū independence. Now, to be frank, this is it's come quite loud and clear from one particular kahui, and we're not, we need to be upfront and say that Rongo Mauhine Nai Taraka Toa has been the one driving this particular process and themselves. So, in recognition of that, we've come up with a kind of a process in the booklet for how potentially that could work. But at the same time, that particular process is also available to other rōpū. We just can't not just give it to one particular kahui. If we're going to do this, we need to be back sure that it's available for everyone if they want to particularly go down this process. The option needs to be there. So the detail, we're still working through that process of the rōpū independence. It is quite tricky to work through, but we feel that from the feedback, particularly from the August, that this particular option, and we need to consider it, we need to confront it, we need to have that discussion about it. Do we have it? We're going to run with this, how it should look, what should the structure look like, what's the detail. Hopefully, trustees will give you enough detail in the booklet to give you a fair idea of how that process will work. But what it said in the presentation, it'll need to be part of the ratification of the final model at the end of the day. So it was just a reflection of that feedback. And then moving on to the two particular models, it was quite clear the feedback that came back was a distinction with the first model was keeping the asset together, economies of scale, building the asset up for more of a longer term view, looking at earning more money for our mokoponas into the future. It was clearly a lot of feedback around that, rather than ourselves benefiting it from early on. Whereas with Model 2, it was more a bit of a balance between the two. How can we build at the same time, but then give some of the asset to some of the rōpū to start doing stuff on the ground now. So that's what the distinction basically between those two models are, doing stuff now on the ground for the future versus collectively building the asset up to then benefit into the future. So that's just my kind of brief touch and summary of the process and some of the bits in terms of aspirations, the rōpū representation and the asset ownership arrangements in terms of the models. So I know a lot of you will have questions regarding some of the detail contained. So now is an opportunity for you members, if you've got any particular questions regarding any particular aspects. So let's just start with the values and principles. If anyone's got any questions pertaining to that particular section, we'll work through those first, and then we'll move through the booklet as we go through with questions and answers. But at the end of the day, there are trustees here that if you want to ask them directly, they're here to answer your questions. But if there's some particular questions you think maybe benefit the wider members gathered here today, then I'm happy to answer those best I can. Questions? You got a mic. You see the booklet, it's quite heavy, it's quite detailed, because we got that feedback from our members that, you want to see some detail, not some high-level stuff like we did last time. But so we'll provide you with the detail. Janina's got the remote, and so just sing out to Janina. Janina's coming.
That's me, Walter Wilson.
Kia ora everybody. My name's Walter Wilson, and I'm one of the ahika at Whakaki. And also, I was one of the people, amongst others of course, to negotiate what we call the settlement that we have in front of us. But my question, Mr. Chairman, I know you've only been aboard 11 months and that's early days, but I'd like to think that we had more to discuss than devolution. I'd like to think we start talking about an environmental plan or strategy I'd like to think we can talk about an economic strategy so we can get something going. And also there's the social strategy which we have negotiated into the settlement. I hear what you're saying about the devolution, but I'm sure that we need to be looking at an economic future in Wairoa, for Wairoa, so that maybe people will stay in Wairoa and not move on. But yeah, I'd like to think, Mr. Chairman, that sooner or later in your consultation rounds that we can expose the environmental strategy and not just talk about asset distribution. That's a discussion that needs to be had. I realise that. But yeah, let's talk about another future. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Walter. Yeah, no, good points there, Walter, about moving on. The key point you're raising is, let's start to do that work now rather than get bogged down potentially for a long time in this discussion about assets. But saying that, we need to have that discussion, like you said now, rather than if we go into a model or go into a particular structure that leads to a lot of unhappy people, leads to litigation, leads to other factors that we could have dealt with at this particular time. So that's why it's important that we face up to these questions, have these discussions through your trustees, through here, through an open forum, the opportunity to provide your feedback to make sure that when we're going forward, who's on the waka to go forward with, to do the environment, do all that policy stuff. So that's what we're hoping to achieve.
Kia ora. My name is Turuki Tipuna, Ngāti Mākaro Marae. In this book here, it contains quite a lot of information, but it's not what Mākaro wants. Ngāti Mākaro was looking for the ratification, never the settlement. Once the settlement is done, we sell ourselves out. I think our people who had sacrificed their lives for this, what you're doing is actually blood money. I'll try and be as short as I can.
Yeah, this process wasn't our process to begin with. It was the Crown's process to dealing with all this. So all we're dealing with is an outcome of what the Crown says, the way it wants to deal with this issue. So we're stuck with it, whether we get on and do something with it, or we just ignore and turn our backs on that past. We need to confront it and say to ourselves, "Oh, how best can we make of this opportunity and going forward to redress some of those well-beings up there?" Because we all know that there's no hiding the statistics that we lead all these statistics that the Crown keeps going on about, involved in blaming us. We're the ones here that causing all this education, health, crime. They want to put the solutions back in our hands to sort those issues out. But at the same time, we need to work with the Crown in terms of those partnerships to make sure that they're helping us as well. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who've created all this this process and the current status. So, but we're there. We do our part as well, because we've got to help our whānau along on this journey.
Kia ora tātou, Austin King to Wairoa Tapokoro 1. I just have a couple of statements in relation to what's in the booklet. Te Wairoa Tapokoro Cluster 1 will retain our cluster as part of the original 7 clusters of whānau and hapu that signed the deed of settlement. We'd like to retain our own autonomy as well, exercise our own mana motuhake. We also believe that equal shares of assets be distributed and assigned or allocated to the 7 clusters to decide what they wish to do with it. For example, to take home, leave all, or leave some in the middle, or something else at their discretion. That all clusters have the ability to leave tātou with their portion of the cash assets under any model. This process sort of ensures, we'd like to make tātou to allow it to be simple and attainable at ahika level. The trust deed should be amended and include a clause that allows all groups to exit without any objections from tātou o te Wairoa. This will allow whānau and hapu to exercise their rangatiratanga over what is theirs and their aspirations to grow their own assets. The final point is on page 16 of the booklets, page 16 of the booklets that Te Wairoa Tapukorau Cluster 1 only has 7 hapu. I'd like to raise the point that back in 2012, OTS has acknowledged that they've received a letter from Te Wairoa Tapukorau Cluster 1 that there are 46 hapu within that cluster. So I'd like to submit or speak to a trustee at the end of the meeting just to highlight that. Kia ora.
Go. Yeah, thanks, Austin. There's some points that you raised that we take on and we acknowledge. There is a process to work through. You know, we cannot change the trustee willy-nilly as we see fit, the trustees. We've got to work through a process of change with the trustee in terms of addressing some of those matters you raised. It's clearly outlined in the trustee how that operates. It's in the booklet. We'll set out a time frame when we were looking to do that. So hopefully you'll engage in that process to have those concerns addressed through that process of the trustee review to make sure that what you're saying is incorporated in the trustee.
Kia ora tātou, my name's Ray Tanahu. Okay, sorry, I'll repeat. Kia ora tātou, my name's Ray Tanahu. In terms of the aspirations, I like the aspirations, I can't add anything more. In terms of representation, for those rōpū who don't have any structure in place, I tautoko your idea of wanting to come together as a tātou PSGE, but in terms of ronga mai wahine, the Model 2 serves ronga mai wahine nai te rā katoa better in terms of diversified ownership. We see that as being the best option to give us our autonomy, our tino rangatiratanga. And I'd like to say to you, Cousin Walter, in terms of all those things that you mentioned, ronga mai wahine has the structure in place now and is already working on those issues. Kia ora.
Just raising the raised point there, you know, we understand that some particular rōpū or kahui currently have structure in place, and then we acknowledge those that don't. So it would be remiss of tātou not to help support other rōpū to get up to a similar or current playing field with those existing rōpū. Supporting as well as exploiting the existing structures that are in place to make sure they have the right checks, balances, they have all the particular aspects pertaining to current good governance. So yeah, we need to be mindful that not everyone is at the same level currently, but we need to address that.
Aroha mai, my name's Naomi and I don't like my back to people. So kia ora koutou. My name's Naomi Wilson, I'm the chairman of Te Rauhina Marae. Just to refer, cousin, in regards to the question around the 44 hapu, we had seen as Te Rauhina that our hapu were inside of the 44. It wasn't here to have that kōrero, kānohi ki te kānohi. We have a mandate that we currently have a representative from OTS that was put before your letter. So as it states now, and I have sent letters to the chair that we keep it as it is for ngā motu kapai.
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 Because what's reflected in the book is a reflective of our trustee currently. So that's what we're saying, how the list is pertaining there. Is how the current trustee had come to. We know that we've inherited that from Te Tira, and we know that we need to look at it. But at the same time, it won't be tātou's decision to make a decision. We're hoping that those rōpū, those kahui, get together, have that discussion amongst themselves. Tātou shouldn't be a body that determines and tells what particular rōpū, what particular hapu, what particular mai should be going where or doing what. That's up to rōpū themselves to make that decision. Not for some other entity to come in and tell them what to do. Okay?
Arua rā kai putara maunga wai ko tūri awa, ki o tāni te tangata te kauti te tuara, kia e tanga puata, kui paki a kau i nei wa. Nō reira, ko ora koutou, Koe ni menu lahau. Ko au te tei mana whakahaere o te tira whakaemi mo te Wairoa tāpukara i te wā te tira. I'd like to say here for us, tautoko what Austin is saying, tautoko what Naomi is saying. We're glad to have this conversation with you boys about our hapus. And, but on to this. For me, I think there's a lot of things in this thing that I think for us to Wairoa, in terms of if people want to devolve like Runga Wahine, kei arata. That's up to them. You know, not for us to decide whether people should stay or go. But what Tātou needs to do is decide how what do they go with. You know, but it's not for us to say you stay here with us. But for other things, like for me in Wairoa, this is a Wairoa claim. Ahi ka, if you know, we're going around here to if we're to like te kotaitanga thing, if that's a beneficial state, everyone else, there's people, there's supposed to be 30,000 people bloody claimed as Wairoa. There's about 5,000 people live in Wairoa. Ahi ka, we're going to get dictated by everyone else. People want to vote, they need to come home and vote inside of Wairoa. Come back to your cluster speak for you now. You know? We fought the battle, the clusters fought the battle right here. People want to have a say, they come right here back to Wairoa, have a say. You know? We have people coming here and they don't even know where the marae is. They don't even know where Wairoa is unless they looked it up on Google. But anyway, I'd like to think that if it's a consolidated thing, that we need, you know, we need a thing to come down to us, to clusters, to feed the clusters now. For us to fix up our people right now. If we wait for, what mukapunas are we waiting for? Eh? Which ones are we waiting for? This next generation, 2 generations down the track, the next generation, time they all come along, we'll still not have enough money. But if we ain't doing something with our people right now, it ain't gonna happen, because the next, half of our young people now are lost already. You know, we don't start fixing it up right now, they ain't gonna have no show in another couple of generations. You know, so our people, us, each cluster, we need something to come down to us now. But the Tātou need to see what, you know, what it is, how much, how often. But asset, in terms of assets, well, you know, it's hard for us to divide assets up because we don't know who's in it and who's not in it. So maybe Tātou needs to have people from each cluster to have them go and research assets to see who's in it and who's not in it. I hope for our cluster, if we're all fighting for an asset and we're not in it, oh well, we'll step away from it. But at this moment, we can't say whether we're in it or not. Because at this moment, we're all in it. You know, some of our clusters have hapu that are in assets without a hapu, but not the whole clusters in it. Hey, so you know, we need to know if you're in something. We can't say, oh, we all want to be in that paddock, and yet it only belongs really to 1 or 2 clusters. Hey, so you know, there's just a lot of things for us, but I hope wherever we're going, there's things that we've got to go to together. There's things that people need to be doing on their own to uplift everyone. You know, if everyone's doing their little piece in every little corner of this district, we're all coming up. Mightn't seem together, but it'll be all together. No reira, no koutou kene karanga mā ngā hapu o te Wairoa nei, tēnā koutou.
Good, Gazin, thanks for that. There's some key points there, in particular one of your points you raised was regarding how do we kind of look at the asset and how do we determine whose proportion is what proportion. We've used the assumption that it's equally split with all kāhui, but the trustees are challenging themselves. Is that correct? Is it equal? Are there particular rōpū that have suffered more? Are there rōpū with particular larger areas of interest? Are there rōpū with particular larger population sizes? So if you understand those concepts, then it may not be an equal distribution. It may be related to those factors just outlined. It needs to be balanced. It needs to be fair. So we got to think mindful. It's easier to do the equal thing, but at the same time, equal may not be fair. So we need to be mindful. That's one of the key questions the trustees are looking for some guidance, and you'll find it in the back of the booklet. What are our members' thoughts on that particular concept? Because it's no matter if we divide the asset up, or if you're looking to divide the distributions, the income from the asset, it equally applies to both. Yeah, it applies to both models, irrespective if you're giving assets away. How much of each of the rōpū benefit from the settlement? So, yeah, Tāpai.
Kia ora, wiki tōrea hairaki te Wairoa Tāpukarau Tuarua. I'd just like to say I tautoko all the kōrero that's gone down so far. In regards to page 16, once again, there are, I think I mentioned it in my last kōrero, I would be hoping that there would be more of a process to validate, because one of our hapus has been brought to my attention by the whānau here. She goes, the last time our hapu was in it, now we're not in it. And then I've assured her that we're in the trust deed, but they get a little bit titchy when they don't see it here, and I'm getting a bit hoha, like 1 minute some are in there, some aren't in there. And then I've also mentioned that probably one of the things that we've noticed, especially in our rōpū, that we've challenged, do those hapus exist? Are they a hapu? And I think I spoke about fairy tales. Some of our rangatahi from Te Wairoa Tāpukarau Tuarua are quite clear. We need to be clear that when I ask a nani how we whakapapa, or to you, to that hapu, that I don't get given an explanation that sounds more like it's come out of a cartoon. And that's about us ensuring that the hapus that are going in are hapus, that they're not being made up, and that when our cluster, that we're actually asked whether they exist. Because once again, look how long it took us to get brackets off one of the hapu. And there's two, and one of them's a significant hapu within Tuarua that's not even there. And the other whānau, they're all significant. What I'm saying is that, once again, I've asked our trustees, and I'll be asking them when we finish, who did the book? Who did the book? In regards to the whānau saying that they sent their hapus in, yeah, we did too. And there was, I think, all up was tuatahi and Tuarua. I think we'd sent it off to the OTS in 2011 because they'd asked. We were asked to, and there were 77 all up. So Tuarua has also written theirs, Tuatahi wrote theirs, and we had a public hui that was advertised throughout the rōpū, and I think nationally. And we did that, and it was a big hui, and still it was ignored. Anyway, we keep hearing about what the Crown want, and we're doing what the Crown want. We're still doing what the Crown wants. I tautoko everybody's kōrero in regards to Adrian's, like it's about what happens now. Yeah, it is about what happens now, because that's the only way we're going to help the mukapuna. And we need to fix up what's here. I'm glad to see some of the rangatahi have turned up, particularly. You're going to play that video tonight? Today? Man. No, that's the rangatahi's perspective, and it might perk things up if we actually play it. But anyway, because it's from a rangatahi's perspective, not ours. And that's what we've been asking for. Maybe we need to see it. Might perk us up a bit. But anyway, yeah, I'll just go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kora wiki. We understand in perspectives of page 16. We put it in there because that was a reflection. That is what's contained in the trust deed. We know we need to change it. It is a work in progress. You all ratified the trust deed when we did vote on this last year in terms of the settlement. So it is what it is in terms of how it got there. And we know we're going to work through a process whereby individual rōpū make a decision about whether they go by hapu, whether they go by marae, or combination. So it's just not whether hapu is in there or not, is whether is hapu the right mechanism for representation within a particular rōpū? Is it by other means? So it's a whole review of those hapu that contained that kind of representation arrangement that's been with the kauri up to now.
Just to answer the pātai from Wiki around the video, she's referring to some mahi that was done by some of our own talented rangatahi here in Te Wairoa. They've produced a video where they've put some questions to the board, where they've shared their whakaaro, but we still need the trust board to work. The trust board hasn't actually seen it all. So the trust board will be looking at it overnight tonight, and then all the trustees will be providing their consent within the next 48 hours. So my apologies to our rangatahi. I'll talk with the chair about providing you guys with an opportunity to look at your own work, but in the meantime, I've got to work with our trustees to get those consents in place, so hopefully within the next 2 days.
Richard.
Kia ora, Mr Chairman. Kia ora tātou. Richard Brooking, whakaki nui a rua. Can I first of all say congratulations to the team that have put this together in such a short time.
Thank you, Richard. You're the first so far.
Working really hard.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And even though you know this is what some people say, that when you get a committee to design a horse, you get a camel. Yeah. This is a really good representation of what you've been through, and so thank you for that.
Thank you, Richard.
The first thing that occurred to me on page 13.
Oh, good.
Page 13. If you ever look at that. At the top of the page, it's got a lovely thing saying, we went into this together, we should stick together, whanaungatanga.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's a really lovely sentiment, eh? And when you look below that, at the principles that are enunciated as part of tātou tātou, and I was having a talk to Walter before about tātou tātou and what that all means. I was the pre-settlement and post-settlement manager for Ngai Tāmanuhiri. And one of the questions we put to our pakeke when people were starting to want to split away and split up the 5 hapu wanted to take the small amount that we had settled on, and the pakeke made the point that the money, the quantum, doesn't belong to us. It was actually fought for by our tipuna and by those that were part of the claim process, which involves many of you here. But their point was this: we have got a responsibility to protect that putea for our future generations. We've got no right to be spending it all, splitting it up or otherwise. So that was the point that they made, and that was one of the guiding principles in what we did. But just if I might, on page 12, because when you look at in the broader context, when you look at that, what's on page 12, there's social well-being, environmental well-being, cultural well-being, and at the bottom is economic well-being. The question I wanted to ask was, has the group of trustees done any economic modelling of what 100 million or whatever the quantum is, what that looks like if you keep it together, and what how much money you can make from that, as opposed to splitting it 7 ways, and what the difference is in what you would have in your hand. So that's one question, because I think that makes quite a difference when you think about what Ngai Tahu, Tainui, and some of the bigger groupings have done. What is it? Ngai Tahu, 170 million settled, now 1.5 billion. And if you take a look at all of the things they're doing across their whole area and with all their people, it's a magnificent result from actually doing the tātou principle. So anyway, that was the point, because I like looking at things from an economic point of view, because at the end of the day, if we're looking forward, whether it's 1 generation, 2 or 7 generations, we want something in place for our mokopuna and their children, a legacy where they can build from that quantum, if you like. So if we're delivering them $100 million plus, they can then have the opportunity to do what they want with it rather than us making decisions on. I'd be interested in whether the rangatahi are thinking about what they might do in the future. So just not to go on, but I just wanted to tease out that question, if there's been some economic modelling. The final point, probably from my just observation of this, is irrespective of what we think, when the resolution is put, 75% of us have got to agree on the change to the current constitution. That's right, eh? 75% have got to be in agreement. So, so whatever happens in terms of the discussion, I hope the 75%.
Okay. I think, Richard, you had a couple of good points raised in there. I think the first one was congratulating the trustees on the work they've got. That was the first point. That was the first point I was looking from everyone. Yeah, good work. We're happy with what you've done. But there's some few things to talk about. You talked about your but being the financial modelling. The short answer is yes, we're looking into it now currently. We're hoping to release some kind of summarised data of those analysis. But at the end of the day, it's not all about the money. Others are worried about the mana motahake. So how do you balance the two up in terms of this whole process? So just for providing the other side of the coin in that argument, we've heard that loud and clear from a number of people. It's about mana motahake rather than the puti. Kapai?
Tēnā koutou, Perio and Rākai Parker. Just one point I want to bring up. At our last meeting, the general feeling was that it should be up to the individual rāhui or rōpū if they want to exit.
Good. Yeah. Just on Paddy's point though, and as Richard has raised, to get that instituted, we need a 75% agreement to pass a framework for that to happen. So that'll require a change to the trustee. It'll require a change to the trustee. So we need. Yeah, hang on, Pete. Let's answer Paddy's question first. Janine will get to you. Don't need to demand it, Pete. You'll get the opportunity. Everyone gets the opportunity. Everyone gets the opportunity to have a say. But if you're not wanting to have a say, and then we'll open up the kai and have a kai while you have those who don't want to listen to other people speak. So let's need to respect each other, but everyone's point of view. So just answering Paddy's question, it's going to require, to get that framework in place, independence rōpū framework, a 75% majority to change the trustee. That's how the trustee sits currently. We can't go outside of that. Our membership will need to vote to have that included. Kapai?
Kia ora, hear that?
Hear that?
Kia ora, Peter Riki Mihari ko taku ingo. Chairman for Te Wairoa Tapokoro Cluster 1. Oh, Cluster 1. Oh, ko Peter Riki Mihari ko taku ingo. Chairman for Te Wairoa Tapokoro. Leon, what the hell is that? We had 3 options. You just took it out ronga mai wahine. You just took out us too. You didn't ask. We want the 3 options back so everyone can have a fair thing. Everyone's asking for their autonomy. Sorry, everyone's asking for their own autonomy. Some of you people will say about you know, sticking with some of it. But there's a lot of stuff here a lot of people don't even know. Leon, me and you did this PSG, bro. I don't want to get tainted with this brush. With me and you keep on reminding me at our hui. Why did you put that on me? I don't want to be tainted with this, bro. You bring back the three. We all have our say. You bring back the three. That wasn't for you fellas to take away that other option. That was for us to decide. You were supposed to go away and report. That's what I remember when we set this up. Yep. When you ran away from us, bro, we knew something was wrong. And for now, Leon, have you received the resignation of our trustee, Darren Beattie? Have you received it on the table?
No, not a written that one. Not a written.
It's been tabled?
Not a written resignation yet.
From Darren?
Not a written from Darren yet.
We'd like to make it here that you accept that,
good,
and then you give us a letter saying that you did do it. Okay? We want that. We're not rescinding. That's our business. Yeah. That you call. Oh, hang on. Then I'll get back to you.
No, let him, Jenny. He's fine. He's fine.
I'm not going to think.
Yep.
I want you people all to know we go for full devolution.
Yep.
You took that option away from your own cluster.
Okay.
I'm you too, bro, there, and I'm us over here. You cut me twice.
Yeah. Go back. So
I want you to be answerable to all these people when they ask.
Yep.
Tell the truth, Leon.
Yeah, I'm telling the truth. Yeah. So, come back. Cool. Just a response to your questions there, Pete. We haven't taken anything away from anyone. We've taken your feedback and we'll put them into some proposals so that then you may exercise your withdrawal. The independence process that we've outlined here is that devolution. But it's not a devolution for everyone. It's a devolution for those who choose. It's not a full devolution enforced on others who may not want to devolve. So that it's still there. It's still your choice. It's up there in the independence process, Pete. So it's still there. Nothing's taken away. Those three concepts you referred to, those were high-level concepts. They weren't actually mechanisms. They were just ideas about what the settlement you could do with. Now we've taken those concepts and come down to a second level where you can see the mechanics of it, the detail of it, because that's what our members wanted. They wanted to see the detail, not some high-level stuff and high-level thinking. They want to see what it's going to mean on the ground in terms of that detail. And in terms of your third point about the resignation of Darren Beattie, we haven't received official in writing yet. Until he tables it official in writing, then yeah, we'll act on it. Ka pai. Richard's going to bless the food if anyone wants to have a kai, and we can continue our discussion. Quick Q&A if people want. I see some hands still up, so those who want to have something to eat, please do so, but those who want to ask further questions. Amen. So Jenny has got the mic. If anyone will put their hands up, she'll come in.
You're not going.
She's coming. She's coming. Here she comes.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora whānga, whānau, Victoria whānga, runga wahine, te rākatō, kia ora, whānau ora advocacy. I do believe we're asking how to help our families today, and I do believe we are the solution. The people of Wairoa. I've returned home to Wairoa to find it very sad, but I'm happy to see that our champions are still here, so that means we can uplift our own hapu iwi motu ourselves. Why? Whānau ora is about looking after one another. And the concept here, kia ora api, nice to see you. Meet api down in Napier. Kia ora there. Well, for me, I just wanted to stand forward, put myself forward, and say that I'm happy to be home. I've been away from home, been in Auckland, but I've returned, come back with some big, bright ideas.
Cool.
Everyone tells me that we all come back with big, bright ideas, but we don't do anything with it. When you're deemed, damned, disclassified, trespassed, and banned from all state services, we got a big call coming home. And that is our call to come back and create employment, because the sickly, vulnerable and terminally ill all need someone to look after them now. They need cooks, cleaners, someone to attend their care, do their showering, and this is part of the kaupapa. We were raised with this knowledge to take care of our own. For me, coming back home to our marae, our rangatahi, our babies who are calling us, children and young persons and family services, 24/7 care, that is what we do. Hapu iwi motu, we are all marae based. We have all been raised with this knowledge to take care of our own. And we don't need no crown to tell us how to take care of our families. Kia ora whānau, meet you at the next hui. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Oh, get away. Oh.
Keep it focused, we're looking for questions. Don't crown me.
Tell us.
Kia ora Leon.
Kia ora.
Kia ora whānau. My name's Dallas Robinson, and I'm speaking on behalf of Te Wairoa Te Pukerai Cluster 1. Right. Sorry, Leon, this is to your trustees. I'm going to address something. That's you too. The 30 minutes that you allocated, well, we've gone right past it, but to me, that's for every cluster to be able to air their grievances, because I think we've got a few. It's built up. We are fairly marginalised in this process. We are fairly marginalised in this process because of the confidentiality our trustees are subjected to. Doors are closed to the whānau hapu at tātau's hui. We believe that the time frame for our trustee to feed back into the booklet was insufficient, and as a result our trustees' feedback was not included. The time frame was Monday, approximately 7:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Tuesday morning. We're pretty upset with that, Leon. Okay. Now let me turn the page.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, whānau. Our feedback to Tātou o Te Wairoa on the 30th of the 9th, 2017 was towards collaboration. Mahitahi model. Since then, more whānau have opted for devolution due to our serious concerns in regards to tātou. Less whānau were for collaboration and one for centralisation. We received the latest booklet on Tuesday, and some of us were shocked to find that the names of the models were different, with no devolution model, but with a model that has centralisation, kotahitanga, in it. No mana motuhake. The change of the names is confusing, and we take offence that the trustees did not approach the kahui kamatua for guidance in choosing the wording in Te Reo Māori. Model 1, I haven't learnt how to say that yet, but consolidated ownership. We felt this model looked like kotahitanga, centralisation model. Model 2, diversity ownership. We need more in-depth information. More information should have been provided so each whānau could see how it worked. Back to our aspirations. Te Wairoa Te Pukerai Cluster 1, retain our cluster as part of the original 7 of whānau hapu that signed the deed of settlement. We don't tell, Yeah, what do you want? Oh no, we've got copies for you.
Carry on, let it go. Yeah, right, Dallas, carry on.
Thank you. Anyone, well, hang on.
Yeah.
We don't tell any others what to do, so we don't expect anyone else to tell us what to do.
Cool.
Those who want to reduce the numbers of clusters must be giving up their cluster. We retain our own autonomy, exercise mana mutahaki over our portion of the assets. 3, that equal shares of cash assets be distributed, assigned or allocated to the 7 clusters to decide what they wish to do with it. 4, that all clusters have the ability to leave tātou with their portion of cash assets under any model. That the process of this be made simple and attainable at ahika level. Maybe a clause policy providing for this. 5, the trust deed should be amended and include a clause that allows all groups to exist without any objection from tātou or te Wairoa. This will allow whānau hapu to exercise their rangatiratanga over what is theirs and to achieve their aspirations and to grow their assets. 6, whānau hapu are to remain the authority over the PSGE if it remains. 7, tātou to carry out research to establish which area hapu belong to, whakapapa to, or have tūranga waiwai in. Whānau and hapu with tūranga waiwai in the areas of interest, retain, maintain, and exercise their mana around the decision-making and or negotiating table over these areas. So I'll pass it on to somebody else before you get bored. Thank you.
A question, Dallas? Was there a question in there or just statements?
Was there a question or statement?
Ah, statements, okay. Okay. I don't need to make no comment. Statement. Thank you, Dallas. Well, you did your job, and said it. Ka pai.
Kia ora, Sapphire Cooper, Rongoма Wahine. Sorry. I have a couple of comments and then a question. Given the stance that Rongoma Wahine has had right from the start that you've acknowledged, why are you proposing a separate process for us to get out of tātou? Would it not have been easier and more understandable so everybody knows what is going on, just to include in each of the models our right to not be there?
So we're saying that currently there's nothing contained in the trust deed that allows any rōpū to exit. So to do that, to any rōpū to exit or any, if it's contained in any of the models, has to be a clause that exists in the trust deed.
I understand that,
So
and from what we're hearing today...
But everyone needs to agree on that too. So that's a change to the trust deed. So every member needs to agree on that.
75% to get the trust deed changed is well...
So that's what we're currently working with.
Yes, but what you've proposed in here also is that after that has been approved, that all members have to approve leaving anyway.
No, that's not. That's only in, as you see in the booklet, it's still highlighted. It's still under discussion with advice from our legal experts, discussions at the trustee table about whether that clause exists or not. And it's not about the exit, it's about the deal. It's about resettlement of assets from the trust. So it's still under discussion, it's still under further review.
But you put it in the book. I find the book actually really biased towards an amalgamated model.
It could be, but hey, all I'm saying is that the process for independence is in there. So if a particular rōpū wants to
along with 45 comments on why amalgamation
if
is
a particular
great.
rōpū wants to leave, it's there. That's what the feedback we received from our members. We've got that feedback. We've come up with a process for that to happen. That's all we're doing. That's all we're looking for.
Okay, and just in response to one of the other comments as well about keeping the assets together to create more money in the future, I'm actually got an undergraduate degree in economics and finance and a first-class master's in finance, and that is really a bull argument. If you take the same amount of money and put it into 7 banks at 7%, you're still making 7%. It doesn't matter if you keep it all together, you're still only going to get 7%. And we just want the right to manage that part of it, that investment decision.
Come on.
Thank you, Natalie. Are you going to ask
Kia ora. Philip Hovey Smith, I can align to a few clusters, but my question is, when you fragment an asset, there's obviously an element of risk.
Yep.
So I want to just know what sort of risk management we've got in place before you start giving out assets and breaking them down. You know, does that fall on you guys, because you've given it away to someone who've blown it, and they'll come back at us or come back to you and say, well, you shouldn't have given us because we haven't got the expertise. So I just want to know what sort of stop guard or something that we've got to make sure that the asset is going to have less risk when it's given away.
Sure. There's the discussions that yet to be discussed, but the trustees have come up with, obviously they need to build some capacity within some of the rōpū. Some of the rōpū don't have existing structures. They need to have some legal structures in behind them, because tātou needs to be certain if it's doing a deal, it knows who that other party it's dealing with. At the moment, there's no legal structure in a few of the rōpū, so it doesn't know who that legal entity is. Others there it exists, which is fine. We need to be certain that those particular entities have the mandate of those particular rōpū to have that discussion. Right? But the key thing is about capacity and building in capacity within rōpūs. If they want to look after assets, they'll need to have the expertise to look after that. We realise that we need to build that up.
Kia ora, my name is Julie Amato. I'm from Ngāti Mākaro, Hine Manuhiri. First and foremost, not butting into Rongamai Waihine's business, but good on yous for trying to do something right for yous. And then my question is this really our money, or is it the futuristic people? And that's what we need to look at, the future of our people. And it's the rangatahi and the mokoponas. And here we are, trying to do something. But I understand, Leon, that we need to have something in place. I understand that. And good on you for trying. Good on you, trustees. Keep going.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think Michelle's had her hand up quite a while. Oh, Sophie's got it.
Kia ora no tātou. My name is Sophie Dodd. Over the last few days I have attended a tangi, and I'm quite shocked at how much information our own people do not know. I was blasted. What is the whakapapa of tātou tātou? What is their whakapapa? Where is their whenua? Where is their this? Where is their that? I had to put up with that in the last 2 days. I've been on a tangi. And it was freaking embarrassing and it was hard. But I don't blame my people. And some of the whānaus from the Hawke's Bay saying this to me. Who the hell is tātou tātou? Where's their whakapapa? Where's their whenua? Where's this? Where's that? A lot of our people during the time of Te Tira never attended our meetings. So they know very little. And when they heard about the forestry, that they don't own it, they can't claim it, they'd have to buy it back. Well, that was a bombshell. And I think you fellas are there, and I know you fellas don't seem to want to come to your kaumātua kāhui. I don't know why. We're not taking over you trustees. Just listen to what I'm saying. Because we were put there for you people to come to get advice or some guidance. I don't know why we're there. And this is what I'm saying. You are moving fast, but we're leaving our people behind. They are very unsure.
Yep. Point taken.
So next time we have a meeting, if you guys got raru among yourselves, come to the kaumātua. We've had the experience. More heads together, we can sort it out.
Ka pai.
Thank you.
Ka pai tau, Sophie. Yeah, point taken there about moving too fast. Trustees have taken on that point and are looking at slowing it down a little bit. We did say in the presentation we'd come back in February, but it did have approximate in there. So we're mindful of that. This next phase is a real important phase to make sure that even at the trustee level we're united. So if we're not united there, we won't be united together on the ground. So we need to keep in contact. Janina, I think. Yeah.
Kia ora tātou, ko Michelle Mauri ahau, no Wairoa Waikato Trust Kahui, no hina mihi ahau. So one of the questions I have for you, Leon, is I remember back in the Tatira days we were talking about this devolution stuff and we fought about it for about 2 months. It was quite ugly. Actually, I think people were ready to fly across the table and punch old people out. All about money, you know. And one of the things that came up was if the money is ripped apart, isn't there a income tax sort of issue that will come up with that? So people know if there is a devolution and money is paid to each of these 7 clusters, however which way it is. And I rongo mai wahine, I'm not against what you're saying, Kia kaha, you know, too much what you've done. You've always said that. You've always been tūturu about that. I'm just saying, just need to be mindful that there's going to be a tax issue. And out of that money that came off the back of the pain of our tūpuna, we're going to have to pay it back to the government. There's going to be a tax issue about that, and we need to be aware of that. So Leon will answer that in a second. The other thing is about the tile. So I suppose I better stand up here and explain myself. We did a protest back in August because, you know, shit's happening now. And I've been asking tātou to hurry up because, you know, frankly, our river can't wait. It's polluted. And so we had to protest to be heard because the Wairoa District Council decided that a settlement from the Waihi Dam, when they polluted our awa, was going to go to their playground you see down the road here, that $600,000 playground. And so far they've been giving out $15,000 to the museum. There's $250,000 settlement. Not 1 cent so far has gone to our awa. We were put on the hot list or whatever it is when it came to the environment in Hawke's Bay Regional Council. They came around to all our people and they said, pay an extra $25 a year and we're going to fix your river and we're going to fix Whakaki. Kei te pai, everybody voted. Well, good on Whakaki, they were ready. And they're getting some of their pūtea. But Wairoa's got nothing. So we've been following up this kaupapa, and I had to go and we created a group o te ropu te aki tau o te Wairoa, and that's about our awa. And so we've gone to the Wairoa Tai Whenua in the meantime to umbrella us because we needed someone to umbrella us so we could approach Hawke's Bay Regional Council and talk about a partnership. So sometimes things can't wait until you're ready, but there's going to be a seat there for tātou down the road. One of the things, so we had a partnership, we had a hui with Hawke's Bay Regional Council on Tuesday. They offered a partnership. When we got to the hui, that partnership involved other people. We told them the partnership to us meant mana whenua, Hawke's Bay Regional Council, no one else. So they're wanting to gauge this on the same thing as the tank group down in Hawke's Bay. So the tank group in Hawke's Bay, there's 5 mana whenua groups and 25 others. So you're marginalised. So my kōrero to the Hawke's Bay Regional Council was, yes, we will be in this catchment group, but 50% of that decision making will be mana whenua. So I'm not leaving tātou up because, you know, they've got some really powerful sort of mechanisms there that can help us in the long run. It's just that we can't wait and we've got to move forward. Join us later on. But yeah, if you could answer that question, Leon. And one more thing, I've got to say, because I'm standing here, the Trust Board's always been getting a lot of help. And it's because they say, oh, it's the Trust Board. Well, within that Trust Board, have a look on this document. There's 4 marae. There's all those hapu. We actually, I think people see this word, Wairoa Waikato Marae Trust Board, and they think that's all it is. Well, it's us marae. So I don't want to hear any more of this kōrero about us having to merge it with other people too, because in the end, that's our business. Okay, kia ora.
Thanks, Michelle. Question was, she had a question regarding the tax issue, about if we devolve the asset to another entity, will there be tax involved? When Te Tiro negotiated the deal, the negotiators could have potentially looked at looking into putting clauses into the deed of settlement, into the legislation where we could have not incurred that tax. But the Crown pushed back and said, no, it's only dealing with one entity. What happens after that is Tata Tata or the iwi and hapu of Te Roi Te Wairoa's business. They will have to incur the costs involved with the transfer of any assets. But in saying that, there's some clever lawyers, there's some clever accountants, we've got some clever members amongst ourselves who'll be able to work out a process for that to occur without the minimum tax occurring. Ka pai? And next point was about the river. Yeah, I understand what's going on with the river. There's other projects around the district that hasn't got Tātou Tātou's involvement. Whakaki Lakes Trust, the Whanganui Catchment Group. No, those grew up out of the whenua from the ground, the people on the ground. And that's what Tātou Tātou's job is to do, is to not step in the way of those groups. You know, let them come together to come as a force to address particular issues about that. But our job more and going forward into the future will be at that higher policy level to make sure that the funding's being attracted here with like the signing with the MFE agreement. You know, make sure we're bringing funding in to address some of those on the ground projects, not be the ones who do it, because Tātou Tātou can't be the doers. You know, we want those on the ground to be the doing, but we want to be helping in some capacity for. Anyone else? Dale, last one. You got a statement too, Dale? You got half a statement or half a statement then?
Kia ora whānau. Dale Robinson, Te Wairoa Te Pukarau cluster, I'm from that cluster. Oh, kia ora. I've got to carry on Dallas, our secretary over there, read out half of our questionnaire statement document, so I'm going to carry on with that. Aroha mai whānau, just bear with us. I think don't think it'll take too long. So kia ora. And also support all those cluster 1 speakers that got up earlier, and acknowledge all the other speakers, and tautoko runga mai wahine and whatever they want to do. So back to this document 8. Cluster 1 expects everyone to be treated fairly and equally, and for whanaungatanga and manaakitanga to remain paramount. 9, each cluster determines who and how they elect their trustees. Our cluster has decided, along with other trustees, that each cluster retain 2 trustee representatives if the trust remains. 10, Tātou Tātou to support the aspirations of each cluster. 11, practice pono and tika. 12, the 46 plus hapu within Te Wairoa Te Pukarau Cluster 1 need to be reflected in your booklets. There's evidence provided. Tātou Tātou have only listed 7. Once again, you've ignored our evidence from the Office of Treaty Settlements and numerous requests to list the hapu within Cluster 1. 13, on page 15, in Tātou Tātou Te Wairoa booklet, November, Roadshow 2017, under the subheading that reads, 7 ropu, like the existing cluster groups, but based on ropu and tipuna. Second bullet point, we disagree with what is written. However, we will only agree if the configuration of our cluster is recorded correctly, showing all 46 hapu listed within Te Wairoa Te Pukarau Cluster 1, and the documentation to be voted upon in the ratification process. 14, on page 17 in the Tātou Tātou or Te Wairoa booklet, November Roadshow, under the subheading that reads Framework. Third bullet point, Te Wairoa Tupukaro 1, Cluster 1 does not agree with the proposal in this booklet that 75% of the adult members registered in Tātou Tātou Te Wairoa should decide whether or not a rōpū cluster can leave. If the rōpū at home, ahika, want to leave, they should be allowed to leave without this decision having to go to a vote by non-ahika. This is exercising tikanga for some rōpū clusters. 15, Te Wairoa Tupukaro Cluster 1 would like bullet point 3, rōpū vote on page 17 removed, which reads, if a rōpū does not meet the threshold for approval of the postal vote, the rōpū will remain part of Tātou Tātou. We believe the clusters should be able to leave, and not have to remain part of Tātou Tātou if they wish. 16, could you please also remove from page 17 the whole clause headed final approval for more members? Still to be determined if this clause needs to remain. The clause reads as all adult members of Tātou Tātou vote on the exit deal for Tātou Tātou arranges a postal vote where all Tātou Tātou registered adult members can vote on whether they approve the exit deal. This is the clause we want removed. Please. Te Wairoa Tupukaro Cluster 1 recommends that any exit is to be decided at cluster level. 17, should this option not be adopted, then it should be determined by a reasonable percentage of registered adult members within the respective clusters or rōpū. 18, a group leaving should be permitted to buy property if they can establish they have tūranga waiwai in that property whenua, or they have permission from hapu that have tūranga waiwai within that property whenua. When it comes to negotiating an exit deal, in regards to property, it should require evidence of tūranga waiwai in these respective areas. 19, we suggest the following to help with the negotiations. We're just about there, go about another page, so bear with us, whānau. It's all relevant and it's good to get it on record. So, 20, Tātou Tātou to create a research team made up of one person per cluster. Further to the above, Tātou Tātou funds each cluster to carry out their own research, a parallel process in the researching. 22, if Tātou Tātou has carried out research, this should be already determined ownership around the rohe. 23, co-op expertise when required. 24, properties, example, forest, etc. Te Wairoa Tupukaro Cluster 1 respects the mana of hapu that have tūranga waiwai in these properties and have the right to buy them back with their share of the cash assets. We note this is a comprehensive claim and ask that specialist advice be sought to work out any economic loss to the other clusters from withdrawal from any of the properties to balance back the remaining hapu to the remaining hapu. 25, we're still waiting for access to list of whānau registered for our cluster. This has consented to share, that have consented to share the information with us. Nearly there, whānau. Thank you all for being patient while listening to our grievances and requests. Ngā mihi. Te Wairoa Tupukaro Cluster 1. Appendix A, we've just got a little bit more to go, and I'll go through it. Reasons why active whānau and hapu with ahikaro within Cluster 1 on this journey have opted for devolution. Devolution can be implemented in all models in different ways. The majority of active whānau hapu prefer devolution for the following reasons. 1, to have autonomy and the ability to exercise mana motuhake over our portion of the assets. 2, to be able to benefit from the settlement at the grassroots level. It was the people at this level that got the treaty claims and the settlement going. to this stage. Additionally, they did it at their own expense quite a bit. 3, to be able to grow our portion of the assets. 4, to be free to participate in joint ventures with others. I'll be about another 10 seconds. 5, to be free to work in collaboration with other clusters on our terms. 6, to be able to respect the whānau and hapu as the decision makers, not a select few, can ensure that the policies reflect this. 7, to be free from oppression from dominant cliquey groups. 8, to be free from the bullying at the larger natural grouping level. 9, to be free to leave a portion in the middle on our terms, for example 50-50 in and out. 10, assets at grassroots level will help ensure that the benefits reach grassroots level at a sooner rather than later, than years later, as evidenced by other settlements. 11, and finally, if there is a loss, at least we're losing ourselves and not someone else. On the other hand, we may be successful and grow for the benefit of the whānau and hapu. Kia ora whānau, and thank you for listening again.
Thanks, Dale. Got any questions? No questions? Yeah, no, yeah. You want to pass it over there? Okay. It was just a bit too much for them to write down at once, so it'd be good if they, it would be good if they got a record of it accurately, rather than trying to go back over the Lime Street and try and write down what was said. So, yeah. Oh, they might get it wrong though. We just want to make sure it got accurate. That's all. Yeah, next question. All good. No further questions. I think we've had a lot. Got a question? You got a question? We're getting a lot of statements. I'm asking. This is a Q&A, not a statement section. Good.
Hi, kia ora whānau. Look, I come from Wairoa. I've only just moved to the Bay. I busted my ass getting here. But I tautoko you. Thank you very much. They made it possible that those living out of Wairoa were able to see that there was a hui here. Tātou o te Wairoa. Beautifully that was put, because it made me come home. But not only for this hui, but also for my, we've got a whānau memorial service tomorrow for my sister-in-law Liz. But however, thank you. It's given me, I've got a book I can go home and read, and I think the cluster hui that was held in Wellington, if I'm not mistaken. But however, we're going to get back, I need to get back, and I hear that our hui for Tauranga is going to be on the 9th of November. Kia ora? Oh, well, one of those days. But anyway, kia ora. Thank you so much. It's been an informative day, and to all the other speakers, kia ora koutou. Thank you so much. Kia ora.
Okay, that's all right. Thanks for that, everyone. And I'm getting mindful that we're getting close to 2 hours. I don't want to cut anyone off, but I want questions. We got had a lot of statements. It's about Q&A. Has someone got a question? Tina, you got a question?
Kia ora, my name's Tina Wilcox, and I just got a couple of questions. I was just wondering, when those last engagement huis were held in August, you gave us three models and concepts, and you asked us to give feedback on that. And I'm assuming that the reason why devolution was dropped out of these models was because there wasn't enough feedback or support for that. Is that right? No?
The devolution model went to independence rōpū, because that's what it was saying, really. Devolution, if you looked at devolution, there would be no tātou as presented in August, but going back and looking at it, tātou has to exist because of the cultural redress. It has to be there because the Crown's only dealing with tātou. It cannot deal with multiple entities because that's the way the settlement was structured. One comprehensive settlement. So a full devolution model as pertained in that wasn't correct, couldn't be achievable based on how it was presented. But in coming back to that, we could have a independence rule-through process, which was a devolution, but it wasn't forced upon everyone to devolve. It's just those that choose to could do so.
Okay, so it's still an option, isn't it,
It's still an aspect
for devolution?
Yep.
Okay. So with this feedback, with the feedback from these huis, is there only going to be, in March, is there only going to be one model to vote on?
In March, we come up with recommendations. So there potentially could be multiple models as part of the recommendation, and members get to choose. Or if the trustees have come to an agreement, there could be just one model. So the trustee specifically says it has to come up with a recommendation. It doesn't say it has to come up with a model. So in terms of recommendations of going forward and how we could do this in terms of achieving the 75% threshold to make a change.
So it's we won't be voting on just one model.
Well, that'll be the determination of what the recommendation of the trustees are. It could be one model, it could be these models, it could be something else. So this feedback is important to say that, I kind of like what you got there as particular models. I'm not specifically know which one I support directly. Some kind of information regarding that, if we need to then go out and then further refine these particular models and then potentially put them up as well as the independent rule-through process as part of our recommendation.
I just thought there was only going to be one model that
we're trying to aim for one model. That's the trustees' goal, is to get there. But if we can't get there and we find the feedback is so diverse that one model is just not going to work for anyone, then we need to be in a position to say, well, we couldn't decide, this is the best we've got, this is our recommendation.
Okay. And just one thing about the economic return, like that's been talked about, and that the economic return is going to be 7% or 5% or whatever it is, whether or not it's split or whether it's kept together as one. But the governance costs ain't going to be the same, are they? Because you're going to have 7 committees and you're going to have 7 lots of governance costs, and so it is going to have an effect on the money, isn't it?
But that's the same when you're looking at the money in terms of those operational costs.
Yeah.
When you have 7 separate entities or 8 entities, if you've got 7 Norfu plus Tato, there's 8 entities, their governance costs are all obviously going to be higher because there's a lot of duplication. Whereas on the other side, when you only got one governance entity, that cost is low. But it's the trade-off between having mana mota hake.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the trade-off here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Kapai? Put the 2 down the back, and I think we're getting close to 7 o'clock, and one more.
Ask a question, Radi. Do anything if you don't.
Kia ora koutou. I'll make this short and sweet. Cool. My question is, from Model 1, why are we using the word ownership?
True.
In regards to tikanga Maori, we don't own the whenua. We're mana whenua. When we pass, the land stays. So if this is confusing me, this is going to confuse our rangatai, because they're all going to walk around going, I own this, I own that. You know, so I don't know, I'd ask tātou to maybe go back to basic tikanga and take that ownership away, because that's a Pākehā term, but kaitiakitanga. That's the word. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Atama. Thanks. Excellent point. Yeah. Couple more questions. It's getting close to 7, and then there's a kai at the back if it's still there.
Tēnā koe te whānau Pauline Tangiora. I've had a feedback from 2 of our Tauhiri groups around the country, and I'd like to, on their behalf, to say thank you to the trustees from Tato for all the work they've done, what they've brought out to Invercargill and Auckland. They got a lot more understanding, and they're much clearer about what's happening. So to you all, the trustees, thank you for your work you're doing. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thanks. We're trying to keep this process as fair and transparent as possible, so by having these engagement hui, No, you're getting up, you want to make a statement, you can make a statement. You got a question, you can have a question, but, so everyone gets to have a say.
Ko puti mō taku ingoa. One question. When is tātou coming to Mahia, to where our whenua is?
Yep, good question. Ka pai. So we're on our way out that way. So we've had our signing with the MFE with Whakaki. We're having our AGM at Tāne Nui Arangi. So the next event that Tātou has to hold will be in Mahia. We're going around and we'll come back around the motu and then do another lap. Ka pai? Ka pai. Richard's got one more, I think that's it. Don't start another argument, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unpopular as it might seem, so we're assuming that a split of the quantum, whichever group wants to exit first, if that second model comes up, is that they'll take out 1/7. Is that so? There's no determination made on that at the moment. So a group could ask to exit and take 50 or more % if they believe that was the case. So that was one question. So that was it.
Yeah. Cool. Just to clarify that, as I said before, with the asset or income distribution, the particular formula for how that's determined is one of the key questions in the back of your booklet. Like I said previously, is it based on area of interest? Is it based on population? Is it based on treaty breaches? So that's something the trustees are grappling with. The assumption is it's equal, 7 groups equal. No, that's not my assumption. That's fair. That's what a lot of people's assumption is equal, but equal and fair may not be the same thing. Okay, we're getting close to. I want to wrap this up. So, Hilda. I haven't got the wireless mic with me, Hilda. Might have to yell it out. Yeah. No, that's what's in the books. The books going out to all the same. It's the same at every Hui.
What I'm saying is, the last Hui we had those 3 models.
They weren't models. They weren't models. They were high-level concepts to engage in your thinking about a spectrum of devolution, amalgamation, and working together. They weren't models because there was no detail in there about how they would look. These are the models. These are the only ones. Okay, we've got for consideration.
So what's going to happen next time? We're going to have another new lot, or are we going to continue with this?
Well, have you seen that we've kind of narrowed ourselves down?
Yeah.
We're coming in narrower. So when the next time we come here, the aim is to have one, as we're trying to do, I said to Tina, trying to get to one model. But if we can't get to one model, what happens? We've got to be prepared for ourselves to say, well, what's the process there? So we're working on getting down to one model, and hopefully we'll get there, but it comes down to what our members feedback to us. Katarana, I think, and then we'll give it to Richard and Ben.
Kia ora Katarina Kawana, Tamatarangi hene manuhiri. A question, it's in regards to people who do choose either option, but I'll just look at option 2. So like if, say a rōpū wants to try that option, is there a backup if, say a year later, they want to come back to tātou? Is there a clause in there? And then, the other thing would be, they do go the Model 1. Is there some backup for those whānau who will still like to have that shared asset? You know, what I'm really looking for is there some mātauranga Māori or some mātauranga for those groups to take either path, you know, so that they're taking the right steps forward? Yep. Just my question.
Yeah, no, that's a good, in terms of that question. I guess when you look at it, it could potentially be viewed as a process and path from moving from one model to the next, or vice versa back. And you're referring to if a particular rōpū says, we want to try this and then go to this. It will be very difficult to kind of set something up like that in terms of a structure, because at the end of the day, we need to give tātou and the rōpūs certainty and clarity about what they're doing and what direction they're taking. It is not good for the tātou, the central model, when you have it got it chopping and changing between different rōpū doing different things. It doesn't give it a clear direction, a clear sense of purpose. It is always looking at what the rōpū are doing, if it's going to veto it, if it's going to do some kind of action over the top of it. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we give some clear pathways for both the rōpū and for tātou. So we distinctly know what's their role, what's their purpose, or else we will put impediments in the way for both developing. If at the end we create an environment where both are locking horns at each other. So in that respect, it is a good way that we need to make sure it's clarity in there without being too complicated. Okay? Yep. Yep. In terms of the feedback at the back. And just talking on that, Api's been in charge of the feedback, and he'll give you an update on your feedback.
So ngā mihi nui ki a koutou katoa, just with regards for your benefit and for those of us watching on the live stream at the moment, those of us who have the physical books, I'll catch up with you later and we'll talk about how we can refine that for our whānau. We also have an online survey available through the Facebook page, which enables you to be able to put your whakaaro straight into either on your phone or on your laptop at home. Everything you put into that survey ends up directly on the trust board table. You can email in through the Facebook page. You can email us your whakaaro that you may have already typed out or whatever directly into the website or the Facebook page. That all ends up on the trust board table. Ka pai? And so with regards to our whānau that live outside of the rohe or couldn't make it tonight, let them know about that link, let them know to check the Facebook page so that they can get their whakaaro directly onto the tepu. Kia ora mō tātou katoa.
And if just the last point, referring to those questions at the back of the booklet are there to help us trustees, because these are some of the pertinent, the difficult questions that the trustees are grappling with. So it's just making, we need that information to help us guide us forward. What's that? Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. So, well then they can come. That's why we, if we break now, then they can answer the questions to the trustees directly. That's why we carry on the Q&A, which are basically being statements. Then you're not going to get the opportunity to have those one-on-one discussions with the trustees. So, on that point, we'll finish. And then we break because it's been 2 hours now, and it's at the point.
Kia manaki hia mai. Kia tukuna i hoko te wairua tapu ai i waka tū